listening to the Fantasy Whisper podcast with your hosts, Johnny Game Time Hicks and Big Travy.
Wow, hello and welcome to the Fantasy Whispers podcast. That's Big Travy, and I'm Johnny Game Time Hicks, and we're here to give you that fantasy football fix. Travis, we are on episode 27. No, we're not. We are on episode 26.
Got ahead of yourself.
I know. Man, but these shows are just flying by. We are in week 4 already. We're about to have a big change happen in the NFL in that we are going to start getting a lot more data that we can pretty much bank on, right? Like a quarter of the season will have flashed by, and we'll know a lot about these teams. It's not just up and down.
Yeah, this is the ebbs and flows of a season, right? You come in with the preseason and you get all this speculation, and now what we're seeing is cold, hard targets and rushes and attempts from these offenses. And so now we can really see what these coaches are doing, how it's affecting the NFL, and what we can expect out of certain offenses. So as to Johnny's point here, we are seeing the analytics come to life on the field. And so we're pretty excited to bring you some more accurate rankings, some more accurate projections. And, at the end of the day, it's still the NFL, and you're still going to have the Bills come into Minnesota and upset them. But it's just amazing to see how the season unfolds, and I'm excited to see how even more storylines come together.
That's right. Well, tonight we are going over the first half of games in a NFL preview. And we're going to dive deeply into each matchup. We'll give you what our opinions are on each player. But first, Travis, do you have anything interesting happen in your life lately? We got to get down and personal. People have to get to know us,
You want to know what happened interesting to me, Johnny, today?
Yes.
I drive in L.A. all the time, right? So I commute all over in L.A.
Oh, that
nice
traffic.
Yeah, I actually had a commute today where I didn't once get road rage. I was proud of myself.
Wow.
So,
congratulations.
Yeah, Big ups to Big Travy because I kept my cool out there. It helped not having as much traffic tonight. So that was a bit of an aberration, but that's about the most interesting thing in my life. So besides fantasy football, of course, man.
Yep.
Been making some trades. I guess that's pretty interesting.
We'll get into trades, certainly into this show. All right, Travis, let's get into a little news and notes.
Sounds good, brother.
News and notes from around the NFL.
That's right, Johnny. Our news and notes are brought to you by Fanatic. That's Fanatiq. That's where fantasy meets IQ. We've told you guys about this app. If you have the Apple iOS App Store on any of your devices, go ahead and download Fanatic. And basically, these guys break it down for you. They've got all sorts of different news feeds in there for all your players. They've got each player's last 3 game stats, including their targets, their receptions, their rushes, their pass attempts, their completion percentage, all the goods, all the morsels that you need to dominate your league. You can win the week, win the next, and win your league if you use Fanatic, and we suggest them highly. The best thing about them, Johnny, is they're constantly updating this bad boy each and every day. Part. And so it's just been great to have them as a partner of ours. They've been able, we've retweeted some of the stats they post out there. And if you guys want our rankings, quick glance at our rankings with those stats, our rankings are right in their app. So you just go under players, and we've got both our PPR and our standard rankings there for it. So once again, that's Fanatic, Fanatiq in the Apple iOS App Store.
All right, Travis, a little bit of news here. We got wide receiver Rashard Matthews told A to Z Sports that he asked the Titans for his release, and he is planning on moving on. Big news, or he really hasn't done anything for the better part of like a year and a half, so it's not really.
I don't know that the Titans have really done anything at all this year, and so
good point.
Him moving on is probably a really good career choice because I've talked about this a couple shows ago. The Titans have seemed to have lost that hype that excitement that we had for them coming into this year. And part of that's due to Mariota's health, and part of it's due to their offense just does not seem to be flowing the way it needs to. Now, they're coming off a big win against Jacksonville, and they beat Houston as well. So they have some, decent wins. They've been winning football games, but as far as putting up fantasy relevant numbers, they're not a big time player as far as offenses.
Yeah, I agree with that. So Chris Carson was limited at Wednesday's practice. This is definitely something to monitor moving forward. My concern gets a little bit greater if he doesn't practice on Thursday. If he doesn't go, how confident are you in starting Penny against the Arizona Cardinals?
They just gave Carson. The Cardinals is actually a decent matchup on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
They've given up some good yardage. They've given up top 10 running back, or almost top 15 running back performances to all three running backs they faced, including in week 1, they gave up 2 top 5 finishes for AP and Chris Thompson. So Arizona is a decent matchup. So I would feel good about Penny in that instance. I feel good about Carson if he goes. For me, Carson is a play in my player stay away article because of the matchup I mentioned, and because he's coming off a league high 32 carries from last week.
We'll get it. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show. That was really awesome. But
definitely monitor that injury and see what happens, and we'll of course keep you updated through all the social media outlets.
For sure. All right. Doug Baldwin returned to limited practice on Wednesday. There is a slight chance he plays in this game, but Travis, I don't even think that if he plays in this game, you would want to start him, considering most of the time he'd probably be lined up against Patrick Peterson. So I'm not really digging this. I want to see what he does first too.
Yeah, it's like he got on the field because of a different knee injury and immediately injured the other knee. Now he should be good to go, but how healthy is the other knee? So for me, this guy is just, you have to wait and see. There are plenty of wide receivers very deep this year. There are plenty of flex and streamer options that you could go to and probably have a better shot of a productive day than Doug Baldwin coming right back from injury.
All right, you have the Rams cornerback Marcus Peters and Vikings running back Dalvin Cook are both listed as questionable for the Thursday night game. We'll just start with the Dalvin Cook. We'll move to the Dalvin Cook side of things, and that's if he doesn't go, Latavius Murray was really, really high on everyone, everyone's personal rankings last week, and he, to be honest with you, he just the bed, So, What would you roll him out there in this matchup against the Rams, who they might be missing their top 2 corners. However, that D line still has Sue and your boy Darnold on it.
Aaron Donald. No, for sure. It's not the best matchup, but Dalvin Cook has looked good in limited action, and what he's really looked good doing is catching the football. And that's where I think that the Rams may be susceptible, is their linebackers are not as legit as some of the other areas on their squad. And so getting him lined up on a linebacker in space could be beneficial for the Vikings to move the ball quickly and attack that pass rush. So for me, it's just going to depend on your roster construction. We know how thin running back is. And so if you need to play someone with upside, I think Dalvin Cook's a good bet as any if he's suiting up to go. I would just temper expectations. He's more of a flex coming into this week with upside than he is his usual RB1, RB2 value.
All right. We had Alshon Jeffrey upgraded to full practice today. Ultimately, this is really good news for Carson Wentz, who that wide receiver core is super beat up. So, Travis, what would you expect him to do when he comes back? Are you going and trying to buy him currently, or?
Yeah, I think he's a guy, but it might be a little hard to buy him off an owner that has been sitting on him this long. So, and you don't know with these rotator cuff, they're one of the more serious injuries there are. So for me, like I like him. I like his talent. I like his role in this offense, especially if in an offense where all the other weapons are getting banged up, including in the running game. And so they could lean on Alshon and Ertz big time this year. So I do like Alshon season long. I just want to see what he's like when he comes back. I'm not rolling him out right away this first week if he comes back.
All right. And then you had wide receiver John. This is kind of sad. Wide receiver John Brown caught passes without a helmet or pads while team worked on special teams. Then Brown left the field and didn't return when individual drills began. You were kind of seeing a breakout Well, he broke out before, but then he had a major down, and you're kind of seeing another breakout. This is really sad news. It's not really known if it's related to the sickle cell, which he was diagnosed with last year, but this is definitely concerning. It definitely upgrades Crabtree in this offense for sure if John Brown can't go. And
Willie Snead's a stash because as you've seen so far this year, Crabtree's been the prototypical number one for the offense, but hasn't produced the number one numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's just about the fit of what the defenses are giving Joe Flacco. So I think Snead is an interesting stash. But yes, to echo your point, John Brown was somebody that the steady drumbeat coming out of camp was he is having a great camp. Joe Flacco loves this guy. I stashed him in a few leagues, and he paid dividends. He was a weekly flex starter. So if he's able to battle back, maybe hopefully it's just an illness or something like a cold or something stupid like that. Hopefully it's not anything serious, and he can come back because he was doing good things. And you wish the best for that guy. He's solid all the way around as a wide receiver. He grades out really well.
All right, probably the biggest news that came out today, and that is that Rex Burkhead of the New England Patriots was placed on the IR. This skyrockets Sony Michel's value and James White value. But moving forward, Travis, if you had to choose one, which one are you more excited about / which one are you buying more into?
Oh, it's Sony Michel, hands down. Like, White is great, and he has a role, and he does what he does, but his ceiling will always be flex value for me. Whereas Sony Michel has RB1 value now with the injury to Rex Burkhead. They spent the draft capital on this guy. He's very good at what he does. The only concern for him is he fumbles about every 52 carries, or he did in college. And so will he stay on the field long enough? If he can fix that, and who better to help him fix that than an organization like the Patriots? He's going to be a stud this year just based on the volume. So I would go buy on Sony Michel if you can at this point. It might be a little too late.
It's probably
given this news.
It's probably too late. And then the last bit of news here that we'll touch on is that LaShawn McCoy is expected to go this weekend. Are you really? I mean, is there confidence in rolling him out? I mean,
there wasn't confidence for me before the injury, let alone with the injury. I'm really surprised he didn't go last week. I really thought he would go. He flew with the team and everything, but I guess he needed one more week. I think, I picked up the Packers defense in a lot of leagues. I think that they're a good defense to play. I think it's at home. They're a 10-point favorite. I don't really want, they were graded as a good run defense. I know they just got destroyed by Adrian Peterson. I think that is an anomaly. I think this defense is actually really good. A side note is that Muhammad Wilkerson, who was actually playing as their third down lineman, so he was an alternate, but he's a great alternate to have, is injured and gone for the year. So I am not a fan of Shady until the Bills offense can prove on multiple games that they're better than they've shown. I know they did it against Minnesota, but they also got a lot of short fields in that game. So it's not like they were, going down the length of the field. It was a lot of weird stuff based on the defense giving them the ball. So Shady is a wait and see for me. If you're still sticking on him, I was hoping most owners would have tried to sell him around week 2, but
yeah. All right, Travis, let's jump into the show. Why don't we?
Let's do it.
All right. So with the first game, we're going to go over the Thursday night game. and that is the Minnesota Vikings against the looking like the best team in the entire NFL, the LA Rams. This is a 49.5-point over-under, and you have the LA Rams favored by 7 points, a full touchdown, Travis. What are you expecting from Todd Gurley in facing probably one of his toughest matchups in the entire year, going against that vaunted Minnesota Vikings defense, although they didn't look so vaunted last week?
Yeah, I am interested to see how the Vikings bounce back here after that Buffalo loss. They just not only lost that game, they lost Emerson Griffin to a mental episode he had the other night, so he's going to get checked out. I wish him the best. Hope he can overcome some of his issues. But the defense, I really like to see how they're going to bounce back for this, because they're going to have to suffer this loss to the Bills and then bounce right back and take on the best offense in the league. Am I worried about Gurley? No. The receiving, his usage, he's going to get enough volume. He's almost guaranteed to be in scoring range. What I'm worried about on the Rams side of the ball is actually the wide receivers, Johnny. Like the wide receivers against a Viking secondary that's pretty tough. I actually see the Rams riding Gurley and checkdowns a lot of the way. So I could see maybe someone like Kupp having a strong game because he is that underneath guy, and the slot corners in Minnesota aren't as great. But for me, I'm not worried about much on the Rams side of the ball.
Yeah. All right.
It's just about opportunity, right? Like they could get shut down on multiple plays or on multiple drives, but they're going to continue to get opportunities, and you give McVay enough opportunities, they're going to convert on some stuff.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I don't expect a monster day. I'm not going to start Goff in any type of league. I don't think that's a good matchup. I honestly think that last week was more of they overlooked the Buffalo Bills. I mean, they thought they had that game won even before they even played it, and then the Bills just came out and popped them in the mouth, and they couldn't recover. I think that they'll be prepared for this game. I feel like that they've kind of been preparing for this game for the last 2 weeks. So I'm actually I was thinking about making this my bet of the week, but I'm not going to. But I'm fairly certain they're going to cover this spread. The Vikings will. And, I like when you're looking at the Vikings side of the ball, I really like Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs in this game. I'm expecting Kirk Cousins to have a good bounce back game here. I'm not monstrous because they still have a good defense even without those two corners. But he'll be fine for fantasy purposes. But Travis, the big thing and the big shocker is that we both expected Diggs to be a very solid wide receiver this year, and he has been to this point. He has 3 touchdowns on the year. Very, very nice. He's caught some really nice catches. But the major surprise to me is Adam Thielen is still dominating this target market share.
I mean,
for
ridiculously dominating
it's
it
insane.
too. It is. He is a monster, and we have talked about it. Every week we've said, okay, well, Diggs, and Diggs I still think is the touchdown guy. Like, he's going to be your guy that pops off on weeks. But Diggs is steady getting you that yardage, and he gets some scores too. So it's just it's crazy to see. It's crazy to see that happen.
Yeah.
I will just say my thing about Kirk Cousins, and he'll be in my player stay away article as actually a stay away. And my reasoning is, the offensive line for Minnesota is giving me some concern. First of all, you look at when Dalvin Cook was in, he wasn't rushing very well to start. And we saw the running game not get going. And they sacked Kirk Cousins last week 4 times. So for me, I'm looking at I'm looking at how the Rams defensive line is going to get up on this Thursday night. They know they have to step up to make up for those all-star corners being out. So I'm really interested to see how this line fares against that defensive line. I don't project it to be very good as 7-point favorites. Yes, I think Cousins will probably have a decent day. I don't think you can expect the monster day he had like against the Packers. I don't think you're going to get that against this Rams defense, even with the corners out. Just that's my take on it, though.
All right, and then you got Rudolph. You're going to start him. Chances are you don't have a better tight end, and he's as good
And
as
the Rams have been kind of that's kind of the way their defense is funneled. If you can't necessarily run on them all the time, and you used to not be able to pass on them, you'd have to hit the middle of the field. We'll see if that stays true based on the corners being out. This is the team to attack them, but I really like Rudolph. If there are in the games where they've been coming back in, he's been a big part of that offense, including last week, including the game against the Packers where they had to come back late and tie it. If this is a game that projects the way Vegas thinks it's going to go, they'll be coming back in this game, and I think Rudolph will have success in that route.
All right, we're going to move on to the next game, and that's the Houston Texans at the Indianapolis Colts. This is a 47-point over-under in Vegas, and and the favorite is Indianapolis by 1.5. Travis, Lamar Miller has kind of struggled a little bit in the beginning of this year. We kind of expected a little bit of that with, Deshaun Watson coming back from his injury and this offensive line being pretty terrible. But do you see it getting any better, or, he's kind of the only guy there?
Yeah, and that's the thing is they tried to give it to Alfred Blue after Lamar fumbled last week, and
that didn't work out for him.
He didn't do anything. So until Donta Foreman comes back and can really challenge with like a talented running back coming back and challenging Lamar Miller, which I'm not so sure he can make the full comeback this year until really late in the year, even if he comes back from the PUP list. I think Lamar Miller's in a lot of spots to get right, and this is as good as any against the Colts. One of the middle of the tier over-unders, but they're not, dogs in this game, so they expect to be in it for a lot of the game. I know he's never been above running back 23 this year yet, but this is actually a prime spot for him to get better. And the thing is like we said, he's the only guy there. He's getting worked in the passing game. In fact, he scored a receiving touchdown last week. So he in this offense, he's the only guy, and this offense projects to get better each week, and it has. So I think eventually he is going to produce just based on volume.
All right, and then you're rolling out. At this point, I think that both of these wide receivers are just automatic start. Like Will Fuller has proven that if he's healthy, you're putting him out there. You're putting him in your lineup. This guy has been a monster, especially if teams continue to double team Nuke on the other side. I really hope Nuke gets in the end zone in this one. Need him to for my own personal fantasy sake. But you're going to roll them out there as well. All right, Travis.
Yeah, and the same with Watson. Like he's been a bit of a roller coaster and had to come back in games and get those points. But he's gotten 40 or more rushing yards in every single game. And so that provides a really nice floor. That was the reason I told people coming into this year why I was fine with his regression, because he was going to rush more this year than he had, and that is the case. We see the line been bad. Lamar Miller hasn't gotten going as well, so Watson has relied on his legs a little bit more. On the other side of the ball, Johnny, are you concerned with the Colts? I mean, a lot has been made this week of Luck's arm strength and where he's at because they brought in Jacoby Brissett on a Hail Mary try at the end of the last game. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, the media took fire on this. What is your concern level with that offense and the Colts?
I mean, minimal at this point. If they're going to throw a long Hail Mary pass, why would you risk? I mean, you have your quarterback trying to scramble around and just launch a ball. There's no risk in getting him injured.
That was my sentiment on it. It's like if they would have had him roll out there and he accidentally same shoulder, the media would have roasted Frank Reich.
Yep. So and we know Jacoby Brissett, like that was the thing about him coming into the league is he was known to have a big arm. So I don't have any issue with that. I'm not reading too much into it. But what I will say is Nyheim Hines, I mean, if you listen to us in the beginning of the creation of this show, we've been preaching Nyheim Hines for a while. The reason he's going to be effective is because Andrew Luck will dink and dunk quite a bit because they have T.Y. Hilton, but Grant is an okay receiver. They don't have any offensive weapons that super scare you other than T.Y. Hilton. So
Well,
you know.
Ebron would scare me if he could catch his targets.
Yeah,
that's what I wanted to talk about. So yeah, we talk about the backs in Indy. Naheem Hines is a deep stash. If you need to play one because you're in a lot of trouble, yes, look at Naheem Hines at least for a stash with a couple more
Especially
injuries.
he's more safe in PPR.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So none of the running backs really get me going, and then it's Ty, and then it's Ebron versus Doyle, because Doyle doesn't get me excited if he's the guy, but if Ebron can be the guy,
Yeah.
this is a big physical specimen. This is a guy that can be a touchdown monster if he can catch the football. He played 88 snaps last week and he got 11 targets. He didn't catch very many, didn't have a big game. Is that more real, or the timeshare with Doyle more real? Like, if he doesn't start catching these targets, they're going to go back to Doyle if Doyle's in there, and they're going to be working them both.
Right.
But I feel like there's a shot for Ebron to take over here. Is there not?
Oh, I definitely think. I mean, he's known for his athleticism, right? Like, he's just a physical freak. And so they want him to be the guy. I feel like they do want him to be the guy just because he can be dominant. He's shown that. But at the same time, like you said, if he can't catch balls, that's your job. That's why you're in the NFL. Because he's not the greatest.
Job.
He's not the greatest blocker. So yeah, they'll insert Jack Doyle, who has nice hand, like he can catch really well. And so I am nervous. I am watching this closely, obviously, because we study the game tape and everything like that. And we want to advise you guys, Whisper Nation, on the best outcome to expect. But I'm more concerned about this and Ebron becoming the number one tight end for this team than I am Andrew Luck and the Hail Mary throw at the end of the game.
Fair enough. Moving on to another Hail Mary throwing quarterback, and that's Aaron Rodgers, the Green Bay Packers. They host the Bills.
Except for he's really good at it.
Yeah, they don't have any problem wheeling him out there throwing it. So the Packers host the Bills in Lambeau with a 45-point over-under. Green Bay favored by 10. My question for you, Johnny, is can the Bills shock the world again here and get an upset in Lambeau?
I don't think so. Not this week because of what they did last week to the Vikings, right? So I think that kind of honestly, well, two sides of this, right? It kind of saved the Packers and they're like, okay, we got to be serious. But at the same time, like the Packers have only won a game. Like they're already on like not panic mode.
Yeah,
whenever you have Rodgers, you're not in panic mode. But yeah, I think the Packers are going to roll in here. They're going to take care of business and they're going to get this ship corrected.
Yeah, I would agree, and that's what steers me away once again from anybody on the Bills. Even Shady McCoy, who just saw Adrian Peterson get 120 yards and 2 touchdowns on the Packers. For me, Shady you can't roll him out there until you see him and Allen do things together that are effective, especially with that injury.
Right.
On the flip side of the ball, I think all 3 wide receivers from Green Bay, including Allison, are a go. So Randall Cobb, Devontae Adams, and Geronimo Allison can all be started in a game that's a 45-point over and under with Green Bay favored by 10. Also think Jimmy is a good play here. If you look at Jimmy, Buffalo has allowed 213 total yards this year and a touchdown to opposing tight ends. So they are really getting gashed by opposing tight ends. And then also you look at slot receivers. So this is why I'm interested in Cobb or even Allison here. The Bills have given up 24 catches, 186 yards, and 3 touchdowns to the slot. So start your wide receivers, start Jimmy Graham. I'm almost hesitant to start the running backs, Johnny, though. Talk me through this backfield and give me your take, not only for this game, if you're starting any, but maybe season long here.
Well, before I jump into that, Travis, I got to ask you about a little Stuart Scott stat here. And that is, well, how do you feel about the stat that the Bills, the Buffalo Bills, since Vontae Davis has retired at halftime, they have outscored their opponents 41-9. Do you think that's just fluky, or are you reading into it?
Who are the quarterbacks they've played?
Captain Kirk,
Kirk Cousins,
and Phillip
yeah.
Rivers.
Okay. So that's not bad.
It's something
it's
interesting.
not Aaron Rodgers though. So
I
I'm
mean,
okay.
I agree. I agree with you though. I'm rolling out all wide receivers. But Travis, when it comes to the running backs, I can't say that I'm particularly excited or confident in rolling out any of them. I will say that the guy that I am most intrigued by moving forward, and I think that I am trying to get shares of him in leagues, is Aaron Jones. And just because I think that he has the most upside because he can kind of do it all.
Yeah.
Whereas,
he's a guy who had just as many big runs as Alvin Kamara last year.
Right.
So we think about the year that Alvin Kamara had, and Aaron Jones was just as good as a runner, or explosive, I should say, not just as good, but just as explosive as a runner. And so for me, once the Packers start seeing, and they saw it last week, I mean, he had the most carries by the end of the game. When the game was getting away, they decided, let's just go ahead and see what he can do. And he looked good.
Yeah.
So I think as this goes on, yes, stash Aaron Jones if you can. Buy him off someone if they're tired of waiting. Hopefully, this is the ideal scenario, Johnny, is that Aaron Jones has a bad game in this game, and you buy him off that Aaron Jones owner, and then you get him, and then he's gonna have better games.
And I think the other part right now that I want to state is that with Jonathan Williams, Jamal Williams, excuse me. With Jamal Williams, he has solidified a role right now because Aaron Rodgers is injured. He is the best pass blocker, and they need as much protection.
That isn't to say that Aaron Jones can't be
correct,
can't turn the corner in that regard.
And
if you listen,
I'm just saying,
if you listen to Aaron Rodgers, and he said it last year, he said he loves the huddle when Aaron Jones is in it, and he said to the broadcasters on Fox in their production meeting that he's super excited that Aaron Jones is back because he loves what he can do on the field. If you actually listen to Aaron Rodgers, he's more excited about the playmaking ability of Aaron Jones because he knows what it means for the offense. Of course, McCarthy himself is like, no, we need to protect the franchise.
Right.
I can't win a game without you. So
yeah, I mean,
I need
that's a fair thing. A $200 million investment. That's
no joke.
Yeah.
All right, speaking of another multi-$100 million investment, the Chicago Bears have invested in Khalil Mack, and it's paying pretty big dividends. They will be hosting Fitzmagic and the Buccaneers this week because it looks like Fitzmagic's going to start this game, and all signs are pointing to that, which is good on the Tampa Bay Bucs because
he's earned it.
He is doing this for them. Even in a game last week where he didn't do too well, he came out and showed up in the second half and got them back in the game a bit. And he's making all these weapons that we thought were good last year look really even better.
Yeah.
And so, Buccaneers at the Bears is a 46.5 point over. Chicago is favored by 3 points. So basically a pick 'em at home. That's how it works. So Mike Evans is having an elite. We talked about this because of Fitzmagic. Mike Evans is having elite style numbers this year.
Mm-hmm.
Godwin looking good, touchdown in every game. Deshaun Jackson looks good. OJ Howard is tight end 3.
Yeah.
Johnny, this offense is running right now, but this is probably their biggest test yet. I know they played Philly, but Philly didn't really have the weapons to keep up with them. What do you think about that? The offense here, are you shutting down any of these Buccaneers against this Chicago matchup?
Honestly, no. I'm rolling in the flames we saw the rock bottom that Fitzmagic had, and yet he still was able to come back and almost win that game. I think that because they go with so many vertical routes, any play can be a 50-yard bomb for a touchdown, and I want a piece of that. I think even Chris Godwin and maybe 14 or 16 team. It depends on what you have in a 12-team league. But I might be willing to start him as a flex option there. He's seeming like he's getting all the underneath routes from
Godwin. Godwin's startable way over Deshaun Jackson for me. Like Godwin's the number 2 in this offense. John.
I believe that.
That's it. I mean, I know that OJ Howard's usage has gone up, and I'm actually he's in the player stay away article on the fantasywhisperers.com.
Mm-hmm.
So if you check that article out, you see I'm high on OJ Howard, and how can you not be? He's produced.
Right.
But like Godwin has scored in each and every game. I know it feels like you're chasing points. The guy's been the number 2 in target market share for this team. And you just said it yourself, Johnny, they're throwing all the time. I think until Fitzmagic doesn't start, you have to roll with Godwin and Evans, man. You got to keep riding that out.
I definitely think so. I'm just saying for confidence
wide receiver
level,
is deep.
And
wide receiver is deep. Yeah. So to your point, that's for sure.
But
what
I'm really interested in, to be honest with you, is when are they going to activate Ronald Jones? Right? It would be one thing if Peyton Barber was lighting it up as well, but he's really not doing anything. He had one good run in the Steelers game, but other than that, he was pretty horrendous. And so you have to think at some point they're going to want to be like, hey, let's see what we've got in this rookie running back that we invested a second-round pick in. I understand that
I don't know why. It's got to be this week, right? Like it wouldn't make any sense anymore. Especially because now finally the running game is getting some media hype.
Yeah.
Like the magic's worn off with the Tampa Bay Bucks a little bit. They saw they were exposed a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then, media really jumped on, well, there's no running game. So you can't blame Fitzpatrick completely when he goes a little off the rails here. They need to figure out what Ronald Jones can do. Like if he can be a playmaker in the running game, this offense could be dangerous.
Yeah.
Yes, I know he can't catch, but you have Jaquiz Rodgers. You could work Jaquiz Rodgers in to catch the football if you really needed to.
Yeah.
Let's see what Jones can do on first and second down. So I was a big Ronald Jones fan. He did everything but promise on that hype. And so for me, I'm excited to see what he can do, just to see how he would turn that around.
Right.
On the other side of the ball, Johnny, speaking of a guy I'm really excited to play, it would be Allen Robinson. If you look at the fact that, the last 3 games, the 3 games of the season, Tampa Bay has allowed a touchdown to Antonio Brown, Aguilar, and Michael Thomas in the first 3 weeks. Get Allen Robinson in your lineup. He's as good as bet as any to score this week because Tampa Bay cannot stop the pass. On the other side of that.
Sorry, real quick, Travis. This is, to me, another semi-buy low, right? Because quietly, Allen Robinson.
Because he had the bad game.
He had the bad game. Quietly, Allen Robinson has been pretty solid through the first, other than the last game. And he's getting the targets. Like, he is definitely Mitch Trubisky's favorite target by far. We both thought it was going to be Trey Burton, which we'll talk about in a second. But it's definitely Allen Robinson. He's his first option, his second option, and then he's got Trey Burton or Jordan Howard as his third option. But I love Allen Robinson and what he's doing over there in Chicago.
Yeah, Allen Robinson, especially this week, is a good guy. Another guy in their offense to stash maybe is Taylor Gabriel.
Yeah.
You look at Allen Robinson's targets at 28. Taylor Gabriel has had 22. Now he has a much smaller yard per reception, but it's a guy you can stash in deeper leagues for sure. I look at Trey Burton as a go because it's the defense. Like we've had starting tight end numbers from every single opponent that Buccaneers have faced this year. And you look at Vance McDonald, he just put Chris Conte's soul into the center of the earth by stiff-arming him straight into the ground.
Did you hear what he said after the game?
Yes, dude, I did.
I wanted to inflict as much pain as possible on him.
I was like, Jesus,
brutal.
Like he straight punched him to the core of the earth, dude. Like
it was
into another galaxy.
I was trying to punch him through the temple.
Like, oh my God.
Oh.
It was like the last scene of a flipping Mortal Kombat game.
Right.
Finish him.
Right? Finish him.
That
was
anyways. But yeah, fire up Trey Burton. Maybe we'll get another 6 stiff arm in this game.
Yeah, hopefully.
So Jordan Howard last 2 weeks have not been great for efficiency. And I don't particularly like the Tampa Bay matchup because they are such a pass funnel defense. The run defense actually looks a lot better. But this guy's coming off 26 carries. We've talked about this before. He's in the top 5 as far as rushes rushing attempts in the NFL this year. Fire up Jordan Howard until told otherwise, or until those rushes go down, because the volume is eventually going to turn his efficiency around. And you know what I'd like to see? And we talked about this in the offseason, and Nagy was supposed to run a lot more of the shotgun. I haven't seen it a lot this year, and that is where Jordan Howard actually runs the best, is out of the shotgun. He averages close to 6 yards per carry on his career. Why aren't they running out of the shotgun more? I don't get it. So hopefully we see more of that.
Well, some of the play calling has just been suspicious, right? In the beginning,
he's been a little weird.
The first half of all games, they've looked great. But then it's like all of a sudden after halftime, it's like they forget.
You can tell he came from Andy Reid, right? Because he forgets his play call sheet a little bit. He gets a little weird with it, cute sometimes. So
100%, 100%. Great little nugget there.
All right, so the next game we got on the docket, Johnny, is the Dolphins, the undefeated.
Last game.
Oh yeah, this is our last game for the episode. The undefeated Miami Dolphins go to Foxborough to play the pissed off Patriots, who just got beat by their former defensive coordinator Matt Patricia. I don't want to be the Dolphins,
dude. Not only did they get beat, Travis, they got whooped on.
Oh yeah. It was in typical Belichick fashion too, because what do they always say about Belichick, which I think is such a stupid thing that they say all the time? He takes away your best weapon.
Yeah,
he always just takes away your best. Well, that's what everybody's trying to do, dude. Like,
yeah, right.
It's not like he does it. Like he invented.
I'm going to take away your worst weapon. That's my coaching philosophy.
You're going to have to beat me with Gronk. Yeah, like, of course they're going to beat you with Gronk. So, but in typical Patriot fashion, Patricia had a plan for Gronk. They came in and beat the Patriots, and now the poor Dolphins have to go to Foxborough and play the Patriots. But I will say this, Dolphins have played the Patriots tough over the last few years.
This is true.
So it'll be interesting to see.
It is in Foxborough, though.
I have a couple things to say about the Dolphins' backfield, Johnny.
All right, let's hear them, Big Travy.
What the F, man?
You mean what the...
Yes.
Dude.
I want to know what's going on, because last week they combined for like 12 carries. Dude. I don't get it, man. I don't get it. Kenyon Drake is so much better than Frank Gore, and they need to give him the ball.
This is when you know it's sad and that you know it's true, because Frank Gore is coming out himself and saying Kenyon Drake looks like an awesome running back.
Yeah.
Like, okay, like, why don't the coaches listen to their player? I don't understand it.
That guy's really good.
Yeah. Oh, like sitting in the bus, he's just like, yeah, that guy's really good right over there. It's just like, I don't understand it. But when I look at this when I just think about this team, it's just like they're so under the radar that it's like I just find myself looking at the scores and like reviewing some of the tape and being like, I'm not. Yeah, they're 3-0, but are they really 3-0? And I feel like that's what a lot of people are saying right now when they look at this team. You have Kenny Stills, and you're definitely rolling him out. I feel pretty confident in that one. But the other one, Travis, that there's been getting a lot of hype because of the way that they've been using him, and that's Danny Amendola. What's your confidence? Is he just a stash guy for now? Maybe he might turn into something fantasy relevant. Are you not even worried about him at all? What's your status with it?
No, actually, the guy I want to look at is Jakeem Grant for the Dolphins, because
Stud muffin, dude.
He's been looking good, and it's like they game plan for him, similar to Tyreek Hill.
Mm-hmm.
They've brought him in on special plays. They've got plans for him, and so I'd really like to stash him and see if he becomes more than a gadget.
Yeah.
I think he'll probably only be a gadget for them, based on some of their other weapons there. I just don't see he carves out a role similar to Tyreek Hill. I don't know if he's that gifted, but that's the thing. For me, is Jakeem Grant, stash him, see if he can become something greater, because the upside is definitely there with him. For me, I don't have anybody in Miami. Maybe a Kenny Stills flex start, maybe the Amendola flex start. You could play the revenge game narrative based on volume. I just don't know if we're ever going to know which wide receiver is going to pop off for Miami.
Right.
And so that's what makes it hard here.
Mm-hmm.
On the flip side, I'm very interested to see, Josh McDaniels came out and said that he has no concerns with Josh Gordon picking up the playbook.
Yeah.
How involved is he going to be this week? I put him in for about 10% market share of the targets for this year in my rankings. I just don't buy that he's going to come in and be a significant, huge part of this.
Yeah, Travis, to be honest with you, I haven't ranked Josh Gordon yet because I'm not 100% sure at it. No one really knows how severe this injury was, or if it was real, or if it was fake. So I'm a little hesitant on ranking him at the moment. Certainly, I am very intrigued by this because I'm excited. Like, I want Flash to succeed, right? Like, this is an underdog story. We love this as a nation of America. We love the underdog story. And so what better way, if there's one place where Flash could get right, it's in New England. So it will be interesting. I would say, and I would second your stance on if he plays, I would give him around a 10% market share. I don't think he would play the full playbook. I think he would play a decent amount of snaps, and he would get 5 to 7, 8 targets, somewhere around there. Travis, the guy I'm really concerned about, and I actually want to know, would you drop him? Is Chris Hogan. Like, this guy was so intriguing coming into this season. Everyone was like, oh, he's going to be, the guy to own at least until Julian Edelman comes back, and he has done literally nothing.
Now, I'm not dropping Chris Hogan yet, and I'll tell you why. When Edelman was part of the offense and Gronk was part of the offense and even Hogan was part of the offense, Hogan tied red zone targets with Gronk. So he was still active in the red zone. Now, I think with Josh Gordon there, that could go away. But I'm stashing Hogan based on the other weapons coming to life and seeing what that does for Hogan. His nickname is 7-Eleven, always open, because of his ability to slip behind defenses. I think part of that is because other weapons get focus. So I'm not dropping Hogan just yet. I want to see how he gets worked in with the rest of the offense. How are you feeling, though, about the guy throwing the ball to him? Father Time himself, Tom Brady. What's going on? Are you good with him rest of season? Are you good with him because the weapons are coming back? What's your thought process on that?
I'm a little bit concerned, right? If you look at Tom Brady's stats, he usually always starts off very strong. He averages about 25 fantasy points a game through the first 4 weeks of a season. It's the end of the season where he drops off and he gets down to 15 fantasy points, which is why we were arguing coming into this year that we weren't willing to spend the high draft pick on Tom Brady this year. And we're kind of seeing that. And I am concerned. It's more than just a smidget. Of course, I do think a lot of it.
And he statistically falls off at the end of the year over time. Like that usually happens as the weather turns. They lean on the run more. Mm-hmm. I could see this be a situation where if you can get any kind of value, which is hard to do for a quarterback, but because Brady is who he is, I might be moving Brady. Yeah. I might be moving Brady and maybe wait a week or two till these weapons get back. He pops and then sell him because I think it might be better. Might be more beneficial. I will say that they play at Miami and Pittsburgh. Okay. I think twice in the playoffs. So be mindful of that. If you're not getting a guy with a stellar schedule as well, then maybe not. But I would be looking to move Brady. I'm not as confident.
So just a couple of guys. Just a quick name game here. Matt Ryan or Tom Brady.
Matt Ryan, hands down. I couldn't be more wrong on Matt Ryan for the rest of this year. If you saw our Instagram account, you saw we put out a video on Matty Ice, basically just alluding to that. The fact that his defense is decimated, we'll get into that in a couple games. Yeah, Matt Ryan.
Yeah, okay. And then we'll just follow up one more. Russell Wilson or Tom Brady?
Russell Wilson, just because of the rushing.
The rushing? Yeah. Okay. And then Jared Goff. Well, I would never mind.
Ooh, you know what?
Jared Goff. I mean, I have
call
him
me crazy. That's interesting. Because don't look now, but Goff's in the top 12. And here's my thinking: if Peters and Talib, like if Peters is down for an extended period of time too, the Rams could be throwing a whole lot more.
That's a very valid point.
So I was actually thinking about Goff today, and Goff might be a guy you could stash if you're having, like if you have a Watson or a Wilson where you invested highly in these guys, but they're not performing up to their par in times. Goff's an interesting guy to look at because
Yeah.
he's got all the weapons in the world. They have a great offensive mind, and now the defensive secondary is susceptible.
Yeah.
Could be in a lot of shootouts this year.
All right. I like the analysis. All right, we're going to move on. We lied. That wasn't the last game that we're talking about.
We're giving you bonus.
Yeah, this is bonus information here. Bonus material with the Lions.
You know, like when you in Mario, you jump down in the tube.
Oh, yeah.
And you go into the secret
Get
room and you
the
have all the
coins. Yeah, exactly.
This is the room with the coins, bro.
Yeah, love that area. All right, so we got the Lions at the Cowboys. This is a 43.5 point over under. Travis, Dallas is actually favored by 3 in this game. I just want to start this this is why a lot of people are asking us, why are we so high on Matthew Stafford this year? And the major reason is they have yet to be favored in a single game. And so Matt Stafford is
I like
going
them to win this game.
I do like them to win this game.
I like Detroit to win this game.
Especially if Sean Lee is out.
Shout out to my bookie.
Shout out to my bookie. But, you know, Stafford's going to be throwing the ball a lot. I do like the emergence of Kerryon Johnson. Travis, talk to me about Kerryon Johnson. Is he now a surefire starter? Are you confident? I think they got to see that LeGarrette Blount is just not doing it for their offense, man.
I don't get it. And, I hate to wish for injury, but I just kind of hope that I had hoped that LeGarrette Blount got dinged up. Not that he got hurt, but he was just like, it's not worth it anymore, and maybe he would retire. Because, dude, Kerryon Johnson is so good.
Oh, man.
He's just so crisp with the ball in his hands.
He looks
catches
so good.
the ball. He could basically eliminate Theo Riddick and LeGarrette Blount in one swoop. Jim Bob Cooter could leave him on the field and really mess with defenses, and they finally got a 100-yard rusher. What don't they see here? I gotta feel like he's gonna take over more to 60 range, 60% of the market share as far as in that running backfield. And if he doesn't, then it's gonna be one of those frustrating things for a couple more weeks. He is on the way.
I might be trying. It's going to be hard.
Yeah, I don't.
Trying to go
listen,
and get him.
If people were patient enough and they've been listening to the Fantasy Whisperers, they know that Kerryon Johnson's the real deal. They know it was a matter of time. It was a matter of if, not when.
Right.
A matter of when, not if.
Yeah.
He would get the chance. So.
All right. When you're looking at these 3 wide receivers, are you rolling all 3 out?
Oh yeah. Until further notice with the Cowboy or with the Lions. All these guys are going to start. They're all probably going to be top 30 wide receivers by the end of the year. This is why we like Stafford so much every week. I did downgrade him a bit this week, and it's not because of Stafford. I just don't think – I think the wide receivers will be fine this week. I'm a little down on Stafford, and that's because Dallas plays this slow – they remind me of the Spurs, dude. They play this slow, boring style of football where it's just run and it's, defense. They take their time with the clock. They really want to play keep away, and that tends to bring down the total plays for the other team. So don't expect the Lions to get out there and throw 45-plus times like they did in week 1 and 2. What we're seeing is that Detroit is kind of starting to get their defense together. We assume they're so bad because of that week 1 start against the Jets. They actually got after Garoppolo pretty well in the back half of the San Francisco game, and we saw what they did to the Patriots. So not only do I think that this will be a slower-paced game, but I think that the Detroit Lions are a sneaky streaming option because Dallas has been within the top 10 as far as points that they allow to opposing defenses and special teams. So definitely if you're in the mood to stream a defense this week, look at Detroit. I suggested Seattle last week against the Cowboys in Seattle, and Seattle put up 15 points against the Cowboys in most formats. So,
all right. Zeke, you're rolling out. You're not rolling out
no
any
doubter.
other options.
Roll out, no doubt.
Right. All right. This is the last game.
I'm excited about this one.
That we're going to talk about today on today's episode, and that is the Cincinnati Bengals at the Atlanta Falcons. This game is a big 51.5 over-under in Vegas. The favorite is Atlanta by 5. Travis, we talked on the last show how concerned we were with A.J. Green. It's looking like they're saying he's going to give it a go. He's saying he's going to give it a go. But what's your confidence level that he's going to be able to return some kind of value?
I don't know, man. Groins are tricky. They're kind of like hamstrings. It's not easy to put everything you have on them.
Right. And once it goes,
so
it's back to
it's
square
done.
one. It's back to square one.
Done. So we'll see what happens. I really like Tyler Boyd. He has, regardless of what goes on with AJ Green, he's been really good. He's been reliable for Andy Dalton. He exploded last week. He has looked good. So if you picked him up on the waiver, if you picked him up the week before, you should roll out Boyd, especially in this matchup. The high over under and the Atlanta Falcons have just been continued to get injured on their defense, and they are now allowing the 5th most pass plays in the NFL on this young season.
Mm-hmm.
So
and they just lost their strong safety. To add injury to insult there.
Yeah, they just continue to get torched, and I expect, and this is part of the reason why we love Matty Ice coming. We didn't love him coming into the year because the defense was healthy. We love him a lot more now that this defense is getting depleted. He seems to be locked in as a QB1. Anybody else on Cincy that you like? I actually was looking at Tyler Eifert this week as a streaming option.
He got a lot of targets in the last game.
Yeah.
You like the targets. There is a concern, just like any other tight end, that they're just 1 week they're boom and the next week they're bust. But, we've seen this
He's trending in the right direction at least.
He is, yeah.
And he has that history with Dalton. So for me, I'm picking him up here. Like I have Reed in one league. And so if you're a Reed owner and you're looking for a replacement, Eifert's a good guy. There's plenty of options on tight end. Any one guy can do it.
Right.
He's as good as any in a high over under. I really want you to give the people your take on Calvin Ridley, Johnny. He has now exploded. His snap count has gone up each week. What are you feeling? Is this real?
I think it is. And I was battling this debate in my own head yesterday, Travis, when I was trying to put in my waivers.
Scary place. Scary place battling in your own head.
Well, when you're thinking about how much fob you should be placing down on a player, yes, it is terrifying because you don't want to overpay, but you're like, oh, would I pay $1 more if I found out, that the person bid $1 more? Would I put that down? And so I couldn't justify it to myself to pay over $20 or 20 fob. And what do you know, Travis? He went for over double that. So I was like, yeah, at that point, there's no way I'm getting him. But I do think that he's going to be a good wide receiver. Do I think he's going to have a game like he had last week again? Probably not. But will he be a solid wide receiver too the rest of the year? I think he can be. I think that's a very logical explanation of how their offenses ran, because you have Julio Jones over there who's going to take double coverage. It's just because he's so talented. So that leaves – they do a 3 wide receiver set pretty significantly, and so that leaves Calvin Ridley one-on-one most of the time. And so I do think that he will be a viable fantasy player throughout this entire year. Do you agree with that?
Okay. I think he'll have games. I think – he may regress to the mean a little bit here. And the only reason I say that is when we saw Matt Ryan's MVP year, we saw Julio have a big year, his biggest touchdown year. We saw
Sanu.
We saw Sanu, but he was never a top 30 wide receiver by the end of the year. He was still only in the 50 to 40 or 40 to 50 range. And Taylor Gabriel was a little bit higher than that. And so for me, I thought, in my head, I thought, Sanu had a big year that year. I look back, he really didn't have that big of a year when you look at it.
Surprising because I just remember
because
him
in your
being
mind,
pretty
you're
solid.
like, oh my God, yes, they were solid. It was really what this did for Julio. And so for me, I actually kind of look at it as a benefit for Julio. I think Ridley is actually a more talented wide receiver than Mohamed Sanu. So there's I think there's a chance that he breaks top 30, top 25. Yeah. And that's based on talent.
Oh, okay.
So
because I was about to say what you were just telling me through stats is that you set me up for a huge trap. That's what you were selling.
No, I like Ridley. I think it's semi-real. I think the other difference between this and the MVP year is only one of the backs is healthy. So they're not going to be throwing to the backs quite as much. And Sarkisian still hasn't thrown to the backs the way Shanahan did.
Right, yeah.
So that's another part of this is more of the target market share is going to go to Ridley, who runs these underneath routes, who's a slot wide receiver. For me, I think this is good for Ridley, Julio, and Matt Ryan, and I think that's about it. But I'm excited for this game. I'm excited to see what Julio and Ridley can do as an encore because Julio, listen, Matt Ryan and Julio have left a lot on the bone together because a lot of meat has been left there because Matt Ryan has missed Julio on a lot of deep routes that Julio has just dusted corners on.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see how this all plays out.
All right, Travis. Anything else you want to add with this game?
That's it, brother.
All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning into today's show. If you want more fantasy football content, this show wasn't enough for you, head on over to YouTube. We've got a ton of more fantasy football content up there, as well as check out our website, thefantasywhispers.com. We've got rankings. We've got articles. Travis does his sits and starts. So definitely check that out, as well as make sure you follow us on all social media platforms. We're consistently posting up the latest information, who's in, who's out, things like that. And you can always, Travis, let them know where they can find our podcast.
That's right. You can get it at Apple iTunes or Google Play. You can get it on Stitcher. And you can also go to YouTube because we put all of our podcasts up there. We put all of our little video shorts up there, our Whisper Perspectives, our buy low, sell high segments. They're all up on YouTube, so check it out. We love you, Whisper Nation.
All right. Until next time, that's Big Travy. I'm Johnny Game Time Hicks, and we're out. Peace.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Whisperers podcast. You can hear more from John and Travis on Google Play, SoundCloud, and iTunes. You can also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at TF Whisperers.
Boom. Let me see.